Good afternoon, everybody. It's been a very long time, right, that we met. Hope you remember all the concepts that we discussed. We have completed C programming and we started algorithms. And in algorithms also, we have completed asymptotic notations, divide and conquer, sortings, and hashing. Okay, we have completed 4 concepts. The remaining concepts are graphs, greedy method, and dynamic programming. So these are the 3 concepts pending in the design and analysis of algorithms, and of course we need to discuss data structures also. Once we complete algorithms, that's when we will start data structures. Okay, yeah, today we will discuss graphs. Okay, so as you already know, we are going to discuss the concept and all the gate questions that we have till 2019-20. Okay, maybe the last year questions I didn't cover in the file that I gave you. I have already pasted a link in the chat box. Please access that when we are discussing the gate questions. Okay, there is a file. I will give you the file name also, so that if you access that file, you can see all the gate questions till 2019-20. Okay, we will be solving all the gate questions on each and every concept. So if you missed the previous classes, I think Madam must be having all the links. Please access those links and then go through each and every concept if you are really targeting for data. Okay. Graphs. What is a graph? Graph G is a finite set of vertices and edges. It's a finite set of vertices and edges. So we represent this as GV comma U. Okay. So what are the vertices? How do we define them, or how do we represent them? Like we will say V1, V2, like this, approximately n vertices. And how do we define edges? Edge is a connection between 2 vertices. If this is V1 and this is V2, this is an edge. An edge can be a vertex to itself. This is also an edge. Okay. So how do we define this edge? This edge is either we say it as E1, E2, and so on, EM, saying this is E1, or another way of giving the details is V1, V2. So there is an edge connecting V1 and V2. So they can give edge name like this or like this. Okay, V1, V2, V2, V3, like that they will give the edges. Okay, so finite set of vertices and edges is called a graph. Okay, now this one, this is also an edge, but this is called a self loop. So it is an edge from a vertex to itself. This is called a self loop. This one, this is E1 and this is E2. Both are edges, but these two are called parallel edges. Okay, parallel edges, because there are 2 edges connecting the same set of vertices. So these are called parallel edges. Now, any graph without having a self loop and parallel edges is called a simple graph. It's a simple graph. A graph without having parallel edges and self loop is called a simple graph. Our most of the discussion is on simple graphs only. Okay, no parallel edges and self loops. Okay, then for example, see, for now there is no direction for these edges that I gave you. Okay, there are no directions. This is called undirected graph. But if I give directions, this edge is from V1 to V2, this edge is from V2 to V3. If I give directions, then that becomes a directed graph. Similarly, if I do not mention any weights on the edges, that becomes an unweighted graph. If I do not mention the weights, it becomes an unweighted graph. Okay, which means all the edges, though I give a small line or a big line, we consider they are all of unit weights, all are of same weights. That is a mean. Okay, that is called an unweighted graph. But if I mention the weights, this is 2, this is 7, this is 9, like this, that becomes a weighted graph. Okay, so we discussed direct and undirected graphs, weighted and unweighted graphs, parallel edges, self loops. A graph without having parallel edges and self loops is called a simple graph. Okay, then what is a path? Let's talk about degree of a vertex. What is degree of a vertex in a graph? Okay, or now this is an undirected graph. Degree of a vertex is the number of edges with which it is incident with. Okay, for example, this V1, I'll remove this self loop also. This V1 is connected with two edges, so the degree of this vertex is 2. But V2 is connected with 3 edges, so the degree of vertex is V2 is 3. For V3, it is only 1. It is connected with only one edge. So that is called degree of a vertex. Degree of a node in a tree is different. Degree of a vertex in a graph is different. In a graph, it is the number of edges with which it is incident with. In a tree, it is only the number of children. See, we call this as a tree. But if someone asks you what is the degree of this node, we say only 2. So the number of children, not the number of arcs. Okay, number of children is called degree of a node in a tree. But in a graph, it is the number of edges with which it is incident with. That is degree of a vertex. What is a path? A connection between any two vertices. For example, this is V4. See, if I want to reach from V2 to V4, I need to follow this path. Okay, the connection of arcs by using which we travel from one vertex to another vertex. This is called a path. Okay, what is a cycle? It is nothing but a path, but the source as well as destination of the vertices are only one. For example, V2. From V2, I can go to V3, V4, and then coming back to V2. So this is a cycle. Okay, it is like a path, but source and destination are same. That is called a cycle. Path and cycle. What is a connected graph? Connected graph. A graph in which there is a path between every pair of vertices. There is a path between every pair of vertices is called a connected graph. Which means I want to travel from V1 to V3. Is it possible or not? Yes, it is possible. From V2 to V4. Yes, there is a path. Some path. Okay. V1 to V4. Yes, there is a path. So there should be a path between every pair of vertices. There need not be an edge between every pair of vertices. Edge is not needed between every pair of vertices. Only there should be a path. I should be able to travel from one vertex to another vertex. Okay, that is called a connected graph. Disconnected graph. This is disconnected graph. See, I cannot travel from V5 to V2. Not possible. V5 to V1. This is disconnected graph. Connected graph is there should be a path between every pair of vertices. Okay. Then what is a complete graph? A graph in which there is an edge between every pair of vertices. If there is a path between every pair of vertices, that is connected graph. If there is an edge between every pair of vertices, that is called a complete graph. Example is like this. For example, if I have 3 vertices, there should be an edge between every pair of vertices. Between this also, and between this also. I have an edge between every pair. For example, if I have 4, this is a complete graph with 4 vertices. If I have 5, complete graph with 5 vertices. Okay. So there should be an edge between every pair of vertices is called a complete graph. vertex or articulation point. What is a cut vertex in a graph? So we are talking about a vertex. A vertex whose removal disconnects the graph is called a cut vertex. A vertex whose removal disconnects the graph, that is called a cut vertex or articulation point. For example, this is V1, V2, V3, V4. Okay. If I remove V1, which means all the edges connected with V1 are also removed. So if I remove this part, is this graph connected or not? Yes, it is connected. So V1 is not a cut vertex. If I remove V2, all the edges with which it is incident with are also removed, which means V2 is deleted, all these three arcs are also removed. Which means V1 is separate, V3, V4 is a separate component, which means it is disconnected. So V2 is a cut vertex. How about V3? If I remove V3, these two edges are removed, but still the remaining graph is connected. So this is not a cut vertex. V4, remove this. These two arcs are removed. Still the remaining graph is connected. So it is not a cut vertex. So in this graph, there is only one cut vertex, that is V2. So they will give a graph and ask for how many number of cut vertices are there in the given graph. Just remove it and see. Similarly, cut edge, also called as bridge. An edge whose removal disconnects the graph is called cut edge or bridge. The edge whose removal disconnects the graph. For example, this is the graph. If I remove this one, V1, V2 edge, the graph is disconnected, which means this is a bridge. This is the only way to connect V1, that's why. Okay? So this is a bridge or cut edge. But if I remove this one, V2, V3, the remaining graph is still connected. So this is not a bridge. Still the graph is connected. This is not a bridge. If I remove this one, V2, V4, okay? Still the graph is connected. So this is not a bridge. So in this graph, there is only one bridge, that is V1, V2 edge. Okay? The edge whose removal disconnects the graph. Subgraph. Subgraph of original graph G. So there should be a graph first. So let this be the graph. Okay. What is a subgraph of this original graph G? A subgraph G dash is nothing but a subset of vertices and subset of edges from G. There are 5 vertices, but I want to take only 3 or 1 or 2, anything. Subset of vertices, or I can take all of them also. Also edges, subset of edges. I want to pick up this edge. I don't want to pick up this edge. I cannot pick up this because I didn't take D as a vertex. I didn't take E as a vertex. So I want to pick up only one edge. So this is a subgraph of this original graph. I can pick up this one also. Yes, it is also a subgraph of this one. I will take one more vertex also. This is also a subgraph, disconnected, but this is a subgraph of G. I can pick up this one also. It's a subgraph of original graph G. So subset of vertices and subset of edges is called a subgraph of G, represented with G dash. What is a spanning subgraph? Spanning subgraph of original graph G. So it is a subgraph, no doubt. But I want to pick up all the vertices. All the vertices from the original graph. But subset of edges. I need to definitely pick up all the vertices. So A, B, C, D, E must be there. But edges, I can pick up whatever I want. I can pick up only one edge or two or three, whatever. From that graph, I cannot insert a new edge. No. From that graph, I want to pick up some of the edges, subset of edges. This is called a spanning subgraph of the original graph G. Okay, then what is a tree? Tree definition. Tree is also a graph, okay, because there are connections. But it is a connected, simple, acyclic graph. A connected, simple, acyclic graph is called a tree. Connected, which means there should be a path between every pair of vertices. I should be able to travel from one vertex to another vertex. There should be a path. This is disconnected. It is not connected. So this is not a tree. Okay. Now this is a tree. Because I can move from one vertex to another vertex. So it should be connected. Simple. Simple means there should not be parallel edges and self loops. Yes, there are no parallel edges and self loops. Acyclic. There should not be a cycle in that graph. You know what is a cycle, right? So there should not be a cycle in this. Yes, there is no cycle at all in this graph. So now this is a tree. It is also a graph. Okay? It should be connected, no parallel edges and self loops, and no cycle. Then that graph is called a tree. Okay. Then what is spanning tree? Spanning tree of graph G. What is spanning tree of graph G? For example, this is the graph. What is the spanning tree of this? Spanning tree. Tree is also a graph, right? So I am calling this as spanning tree. Okay, spanning tree is, first of all, it must be a spanning subgraph. You know what is a spanning subgraph, right? You should pick up all the vertices, subset of edges. So that is called a spanning subgraph. So from this graph, I need to pick up all the vertices so that it is a spanning subgraph. Also, it must be a tree. Whatever you are constructing, it should be a tree. Then only we call it as a spanning tree of the original graph. So it should be a spanning subgraph, which means I need to pick up all the vertices. It should be a tree, which means I need to pick up some of the edges from there and keep it. But it should form a tree. Tree means it should be connected, simple, and no cycles. So I'll pick up this one, this one, this one, and this one. Yes, it is connected, simple, no cycles. This is a spanning tree of this graph. Can I draw one more spanning tree? Yes, possible. I'll take again A, B, C, D, E. I'll pick this one, this one, this one, and this one. A different graph, a different spanning tree. Connected, simple, and acyclic. So there can be many spanning trees for a graph. Is that okay? Till now, we didn't take any weights on the edges. That's why we are calling this one also as a spanning tree. This is also a spanning tree. Yes, all of them are spanning trees. But if there are weights on this edges, definitely we will take those weights here also and here also. And if I sum up all the weights on this and sum up all the weights on this, okay, this weight, total weight, is definitely different from this one. So like this I can draw many other spanning trees, but among all those trees, one tree has minimum weight. That is called minimum spanning tree, MST, minimum spanning tree. Okay. So there can be many spanning trees for a graph, but among all those spanning trees, one tree has minimum total weight. We call it as just minimum weight, okay? Minimum weight of the tree. And that particular tree is called minimum spanning tree, MST. MST, minimum spanning tree of this graph. Okay. How do we construct minimum spanning tree of this graph? That is a greedy problem that we will see in greedy method. Okay, but we should know what is minimum spanning tree in graphs. Is it okay? So you know what is spanning trees first, correct? If I draw a complete graph, what is a complete graph? A graph in which there is an edge between every pair of vertices. Complete graph of 3 vertices. How many spanning trees I can construct for this? I need to pick up all the vertices, but edges, I can pick up these two, I can pick up these two, or I can pick up these two. Definitely, if there are n vertices, there must be n minus 1 edges only in a tree. Then only it is a tree. If you try to insert one more edge, definitely it forms a cycle. But in a tree, there should not be a cycle. So, if there are n vertices in a tree, definitely there will be n minus 1 edges only. Okay. So, this is with 3 vertices. So, if there are 3 vertices in a graph, definitely there should be only 2 edges. Then only we call it as a tree. Okay. Right. This is also a spanning tree. This is also a spanning tree. This one is also. So, for 3 vertices, we have 3 spanning trees. But if I have a complete graph of 4 vertices like this, how many spanning trees I can construct? 5. If I have 5 vertices, how many? Like that, if I have n vertices, how many spanning trees? I'm not talking about minimum spanning tree because I didn't give any weights. I'm assuming all of them are unit weights. But taking only these 3 edges, it gives me one tree. Taking only these 3 will give me another tree. Taking like n is one more tree. Taking like z is one more tree. All are different spanning trees only. So I'm asking total how many different spanning trees can be formed for a complete graph of n vertices. So the number of spanning trees of a complete graph with n vertices is n power n minus 2. N power n minus 2 spanning trees can be constructed for a complete graph of n vertices. But if I give edge weights, all of them are spanning trees, but one tree will have a minimum weight that we call it as a minimum spanning tree, MST, of that graph. What is a clique? Clique. For example, this is the graph. Okay, this is the graph. So I'm asking what is the clique of this graph? A clique is nothing but a subgraph. It's a subgraph of this only. But I am trying to look for a complete graph within this graph. Can I see a complete graph within this graph? Not with 6 vertices. No, it is not a complete graph with 6 vertices. But can I see a complete graph with 3 vertices? Yes. Can I see a complete graph with 4 vertices? Yes. Can I see a complete graph with 5 vertices? For example, assuming these 5. No, there is no edge between these two, no edge between these two, no edge between these two. So I cannot see a complete graph with 5 vertices, but I can see a complete graph with 4 vertices. So click is a maximum complete graph that is induced in the given graph. This is the total graph. But there is one complete graph that is hidden in this graph. What is that? What is that maximum complete graph? You should not say with 3 vertices. No, there is a possibility with 4 vertices. So, a complete graph with 4 vertices is hidden in this graph. So, I will say a clique of size 4. The maximum, there is a clique of size 4 is hidden in this graph. This is called a clique. The maximum size of a complete graph that is induced in the given graph is called clique. Okay, right. Let me ask you one or two questions. For example, there is a cycle. There is a cycle. I am saying every edge in a cycle, every edge in a cycle is a cut edge. Is my statement true or false? There is a cycle. I am saying every edge in a cycle is a cut edge. For example, first you assume a cycle. This is a cycle, correct? I am saying every edge in a cycle is a cut edge. What is cut edge? The edge whose removal disconnects the graph. I remove this. I am checking whether that is a cut edge or not. I remove that. But still the remaining graph is connected. So this is not a cut edge. I remove this. Still the graph is connected. So it is not a cut edge. Remove this. Still connected. So this is not a cut edge. Connected. So this is also not a cut edge. Which means none of the edges in a cycle are cut edges. None of them is a cut edge. Now, I am talking about a tree. So the statement that I gave you previously is wrong statement. I said every edge is a cut edge in a cycle. Now that is a wrong statement. Now I am talking about a tree. I am saying every edge in a tree is a cut edge. Every edge in a tree is a cut edge. What is a tree? It should be a connected. It should be a connected simple acyclic graph. There should not be a cycle. Yes, there is no cycle. It should be a connected graph. Yes, it is a connected graph. Simple. No parallel edges and self loops. Fine. So I am saying every edge is a cut edge. Whose removal disconnects the graph? Yes, its removal disconnected the graph. Disconnected this. Okay, so this is a cut edge. This removal disconnected the graph. So it is a cut edge. This removal disconnected the graph. So it is a cut edge. And this removal also disconnected the graph. So this is also a cut edge, which means every edge in a tree is a cut edge, but none of the edges in a cycle is a cut edge. Okay? Right. Let's talk about few points on MST, minimum spanning tree. For example, we have a graph, weighted graph. Because I said minimum, which means there should be weights. Otherwise, there is nothing to discuss. Okay, I have taken all distinct weights. I didn't repeat any edge weight. Okay, all are distinct. So if I construct a minimum spanning tree, that is a greedy algorithm, but I think you already know how to construct. First we will start with the minimum weight. Okay. Then I will try to include the next minimum weight. Then I will try to include the next minimum weight. Yes, it is not forming a cycle, so I included. Next, I want to include the next minimum weight, which is 4. But if I include it, it forms a cycle, so I will not include it. Next minimum weight is 5. If I include it, it forms a cycle. That's why I will not include it. Because I am trying to form a tree. A tree should not have a cycle. That's why we are avoiding cycles. The next minimum weight is 6. Included. Because it is not forming cycle. Yes. Now this is the minimum spanning tree. And the first point is, if all the edge weights are distinct, none of the edge weight is repeated, then there will be a unique MST, which means the MST is only one. Only one. Spanning trees can be many, but a tree having minimum weight is only one. See, I can construct a spanning tree by considering these edges. Okay, I will include 6, 5, 1, 4. That is also a spanning tree, but that is not a tree with minimum weight. This is the only tree with minimum weight for this graph. So, if all the edge weights are distinct, then there will be a unique MST. There will be only one spanning tree with minimum weight. This is the example. Okay, this is the first point. If all the edge weights are distinct, there will be unique chemistry. There will be only one minimum spanning tree. Just spanning trees can be many, but minimum spanning tree is unique. But if edge weights are repeated, okay, if edge weights are repeated, consider these two as one, this one as for example. Okay. Now I am trying to construct a minimum spanning tree for that. First, I will start with minimum weight. Oh, there are 3 edges with minimum weights. Which one I should pick up? Anything is fine. So I will pick up CD. Next minimum weight. Next minimum weight is, it could be DE also, CE also. You can pick up any one among them. So I will pick up CE. What is the next minimum weight? I have DE, but if I include it, it forms a cycle. That's why I will avoid that. Next minimum weight is 2. Next minimum weight is 5. But if I include it, it forms a cycle. So I will not include it. And finally, 6. So this is a MST. But what is the weight? 6 plus 2, 8. Total 10. But can I draw one more MST whose weight is 10? Let me see. See, first, instead of picking up CD, I will pick up DE. Its weight is also 1. Then I will pick up CE. This is also 1. Then I will not include this one because it forms a cycle. Then I will pick up these 2. Finally, I will pick up this 6. Because if I take 5, it forms a cycle. This tree is different from this tree. But the weight, 6 plus 2 plus 2, total 10. Weights are same. So both are MSTs. But the trees are different. This tree is different from this tree. But both are MSTs. Okay. So the point that I want to tell you is, if all the edge weights are distinct, there will be unique chemistry. But if the edge weights are repeated, there is a possibility of having more than one MST. It's not mandatory that definitely there will be more than one MST. No, it's not mandatory. There is a possibility of having more than one MSTs. Okay, yes, this is the example. I have two, not only two, I can have three. See, these two I picked up, these two I picked up. Next time I will pick up these two, CD and DE. I will remove this one. That is one more tree. So there are three different MSTs, three different minimum spanning trees. For all the three trees, MST cost is 10 only, and that is the minimum weight possible. Okay, so if the edge weights are repeated, there is a possibility of having more than one MST. This is the second point. Third point, generally if there is a graph and we are trying to construct an MST, what is our thinking is definitely the edge with maximum weight will not be there in the MST. This is our assumption. The edge with minimum weight will definitely be there in the MST, but the edge with maximum weight definitely it will not be part of MST. This is our assumption. That is not the truth. In this graph, the maximum edge weight is AB. But if you see, all the MSTs are including AB. Why? Though it is of the maximum weight, still it is part of MST. We are trying to pick up the minimum weights only always. But still the maximum weight edge was included. Why? Because that is the only way to connect it to A. From this tree that we are forming, this is the only way to connect it to vertex A. That's why even it is having the maximum weight, still it is part of MST. Which means if there is an edge with maximum weight is included in the MST, definitely that maximum edge removal in the graph will disconnect the graph. See, if it is not there in the graph, definitely the graph is disconnected. And when there is such a case, that's when, though it is having maximum weight, it will be part of all the MSTs. Okay? The edge with maximum weight is part of MST means its removal disconnects the original graph. Which means it is disconnecting means that is the only way to connect to A. That's why it is part of MSTs also, though it is having maximum weight. Okay, this is third point. Fourth point, the edge with the minimum weight. In this case, it is 1. An edge with the minimum weight, generally it is part of all the MSTs, correct? But if I say, though there is an edge with the minimum weight, still it is not part of MST. What you can conclude? An edge with minimum weight is not part of MST. Simple example, this is the graph. This is an edge with minimum weight, CD, but it is not part of this MST. Why? Generally we think minimum weight should be there in MST, but still it is not part of MST. This happens only in one case. In which case? Because why it was not included, though it is having minimum weight? Because by including that, it forms a cycle, and in that cycle, other edges are also of minimum weights. Only in that case, we will not include the minimum edge weight. In this total graph, minimum edge weight is 1. But still, one edge with minimum weight is not included, which means it is because its inclusion will form a cycle, and in that cycle, all other edge weights are also of minimum weights, and I have already included them in the MST. That's why now, to avoid cycle, I am not including, though it is the minimum edge weight. This is fourth point. Okay, fifth point about MSTs. If there is a graph, the previous graph, take this as 2, 7, 4. Definitely there will be only one MST, no doubt, because all are distinct edge weights. Now the question is, for this graph, whatever may be the MST, definitely there will be one MST, unique MST. Okay. Now for this graph, if I add a constant figure to all the edge weights, I am adding one constant figure to all the edge weights. How about the MST? Before adding K, there is one MST. Now if I add a constant figure to all the edge weights, what happens to this updated MST? Will that be same as the previous one, or there will be a change? A tree. What is the result of a tree? Cost is definitely different. Okay, because I'm adding constant figure. So in the updated tree also, constant gets added to all the edge weights. So the cost is definitely changing. I'm talking about a tree structure. Does it change or not? It doesn't change because before adding k to all of them, whatever I am assuming the minimum CD is the first minimum. The next minimum is BC. The next minimum is 4. Next minimum is 5. But if I include that, it forms a cycle. So I will include 6. Correct? Even after adding a constant figure to all of them, because I have added the same k to all of them, next time also CD is the next minimum, first minimum. 2 plus k will be the second minimum. Okay. 4 plus k will be the third minimum. 5 plus k will be the next minimum, but if I include it, it forms a cycle. So I will include 6 plus k. So the tree will not change by adding a constant figure to all the edge weights. Tree will not change, but tree cost will definitely change. The MST, for example, the MST of this tree is some M. Okay, before adding k, this is the minimum cost. But after adding k to all of them, definitely this will be the tree because tree doesn't change. But the edge weights are like this. So for this tree, what is the minimum cost? Whatever I have already m plus on each and every edge I have incremented it by k. So how many edges will be there? When there are n vertices, how many edges will be there in a tree? N minus 1 edges. So n minus 1 times k value. K 4 times because there are 5 vertices. Okay. So n minus 1 times k value should be added to the previous minimum. Okay. This is the updated cost. Tree doesn't change. The cost will change and it gets incremented by n minus 1 into k. Value gets incremented on the previous value. Okay. So by adding a constant figure to all the edges on a graph, the MST tree doesn't change, but MST cost gets incremented by n minus 1 into k value. Okay. That is about MSTs. Now let us talk about shortest distance between a pair of vertices. Shortest distance between a pair of vertices. Okay, I just want to give one point here. For example, there are 3 vertices like this. Okay, there are some edge weights on these 3. If I add a constant figure to all the edge weights, before adding constant figures, there is a shortest distance between AB, AC and BC. Okay, there is some shortest distance, root. But if I add a constant figure to all the edge weights, does the shortest path change? I'm not talking about the cost. Cost will definitely change. Like this, like the previous case. Tree didn't change, only the cost changed. Now the same question I am talking about, shortest distance between a pair of vertices. Okay, by adding a constant figure to all the edge weights, does the shortest route change between the 2 pair of vertices?
No, ma'am.
No, right? Is it? Let us talk about this. For example, I am taking this as 3, 2, 6. This is the previous case. Okay, before adding a constant figure. What is the shortest distance or shortest route from A to C? Shortest route from A to C. If I go directly like this, it cost is 6. But if I go to B and then C, shortest cost is only 5. So the route is A to B, then B to C is the shortest route to reach from A to C. Correct? Now I am adding a constant figure to all the edges. Constant figure. I added 100, 100, 100 to all the edges. Now tell me, in the previous case, shortest distance from A to C is A to B, B to C. If I follow that route now, what is the total cost? This is already 103. This is 102. 103 plus 102 is 205. If I go via this path, it takes the cost of 205. But if I go like this, it is just 106. Shortest path changed. If I add a constant figure to each and every edge, shortest path itself changed. Not only the cost. Shortest path itself can change. But a nested tree doesn't change. Shortest path between a pair of vertices can change by adding a constant figure to all the edge weights. If you remember Dijkstra's algorithm, that is finding a shortest distance from a source to every other vertex. We follow Dijkstra's algorithm, right? But there is a problem with Dijkstra's algorithm, that is, if the graph is having all positive edges, all the costs must be positive values, then only the algorithm will work. If some of them are having negative weights, algorithm doesn't work. So somebody was asking a question like this: what is the problem? Even if there are some negative values, to make them as positive, I will add a constant figure to all of them, all the edge weights, so that all the edge weights will become positive, so that I can apply Dijkstra's algorithm. Why should I learn Bellman-Ford algorithm? There is no need. This is a question I got from students also. See, the problem is this one. If you add a constant figure to all the edge weights, path itself changed. It's not that before with negative values, whatever is the shortest path, after adding a constant figure, I am not getting the same answer as what I should get with negatives. So adding a constant figure to all the edge weights will not give the same shortest path between a pair of vertices. Okay. So that is about the terminology of graphs. Now we'll talk about graph representation and graph traversals. Graph representation. How do you represent the graph in a computer? Either by using adjacency list or by using adjacency matrix. The graph is like this. So if I want to represent this graph in a computer by using adjacency list, I will take an array. How many vertices? That will be the size of the array. So A, B, C, D, E. Now this is a linked list. Each header is a linked list. Every node points to a list. So what this list contains is, the list is all the vertices which are adjacent to this vertex. Adjacent to this vertex. Adjacent means there should be a direct edge. That's all. So for A, the direct connection is only with B. For B, the direct connection is with A, C and D. So A, C and D. It's a linked list. That's why we are calling it as adjacency list. Then for C, who are the adjacents of C? B, D, E. It is B, D and E. For D, adjacents are B, C, E. Finally for E, both C and D are adjacents. That's all. This is adjacency list representation for this graph. Okay. If you see sum of the length of these linked lists, these are all linked lists. What is the sum of the lengths? This is 1 plus 3, 4, 4 plus 3, 7, 10, 12. So the length is 12. When the edges are only 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sum of the lengths is sum of the lengths of the linked list is 12. Definitely it is always 2 times E, 2 times number of edges. Why? Because when I am at A, I am saying B is its adjacent. When I am at B, I am saying A is its adjacent. So the same edge is counted twice. Here is also considered as an edge, here is it is also considered as an edge. Okay, that's why it is 2 times E. This is the space consumed by this representation. It is this vertices array plus this sum of the lengths of the linked list. So this is the space taken by adjacency list. How about adjacency matrix for this graph? When there are n vertices, we will take a matrix of n by n, two-dimensional array of size like this. Okay, A, B, C, D, E, A, B, C, D, E. If there is an edge from A to A, which means if there is a self loop, I will say 1. There is no self loop, so 0. A to B, yes, there is an edge, that's why 1. A to C, there is no direct edge, so 0. A to D, no direct edge. A to E, no direct edge. B to A, yes. B to D, no self loop. B to C, yes. B to D, yes. B to E, no. Then from C, C to A, no. C to B, yes. C to C, 0. C to D, yes. C to E, yes. From D, no edge to A, yes, there is an edge to B. C, D to D, 0. D to E, yes. From E, I have only to C and D, remaining all are zeros. So when there are V number of vertices, the space taken by adjacency matrix is V square. Okay? Because it is n by n matrix, which means V by V. Number of vertices. Okay, so this is adjacency matrix representation, that is adjacency list representation. May I erase it? Now we'll see graph traversals, BFS and DFS. Graph traversals. Two graph traversals, that is BFS and DFS. I take the same graph A, B, C, D. First, let us talk about BFS, breadth first. We will start at a source vertex. For example, in this case, let us assume A as a source vertex. What BFS says? The BFS rule is like this. When you are at the vertex, initially it is source vertex, first we need to visit all the vertices which are adjacent to this vertex. First you finish visiting all of them, which means they are all done. Okay. Once you complete all the adjacents of source vertex, then you move to the next one. Which means I am at the level 0 here. Because I have visited all the vertices which are adjacent to A, which means I have covered level 0. Now I am moving to level 1. Now I will pick up one of the vertex at level 1 and then I will cover all the adjacents of level 1. This is nothing but first we are covering all the vertices which are at a distance of 1. First I will cover all the vertices which are at a distance of 1 from source vertex. Once they are done, then I will visit or process all the vertices which are at a distance of 2 from the source. Which are at a distance of 2 from the source. And then I will visit which are at a distance of 3 from the source. Which means without completing visiting of all the vertices which are at a distance of k, I cannot move to the vertices which are at a distance of k plus 1. This is a rule for BFS. Unless I visit all the vertices which are at a distance of k, I should not go to the vertices which are at a distance of k plus 1. So this is the rule for BFS. And by using this method, we will go for Dijkstra's algorithm also. Dijkstra's algorithm also follows the same logic of BFS. Unless I visit all which are at a distance of all the vertices which are adjacent to source, I should not move to the next level. Okay. So based on this principle, let us visit the source first, A. Then once I finish the source, I should move to the adjacents of A. That in this case, there is only one, that is B. Now, because I already visited B, now I should move to adjacents of B. I have two adjacents, that is C and D. Should I go to C first or D first? That is fine. Anything is fine. Either C or D. If I pick up C, if I visit C first, immediately I will visit D. Or if I visit D first, immediately I will visit C. But these two, either I can visit C first and D next, or D first and C next. That is okay. But without visiting these two, I should not go to E. This is the rule of BFS. So, from A, B is which is at a distance of 1. But C and D both are at a distance of 2 from A. 2. Okay. So, which are at a distance of 2, I will visit next. But I can visit in any order. That is fine. So, both of them are done. Now, I should go to which are at a distance of 3. Which means C's adjacents and D's adjacents. Which one should I pick up first for the adjacents? Either C's adjacents first or D's adjacents. No problem. So, which are at a distance of 3? C's adjacents, for example, I have G also. Okay. I can visit G first and E next, or E first and G next. Anything is fine. If I have these adjacent also, I can visit H first, E next and G next, or G first, E next, H next. Anything is fine. So, G, E, H are also fine. H, E, G are also fine. E, G, H is also fine. E, H, G is also fine. So, without covering these three, I should not go to the next level. Now I have covered all the vertices which are at a distance of 3 from A. From A, they are at a distance of 3. Okay. So once I complete all of them, I will go to the adjacents of G, E and H. G doesn't have adjacent, H doesn't have adjacent. Yes, E has an adjacent, that is F. So F should be the last one. Okay. So F. This is BFS traversal. Now the questions will be like this. They will give a graph. The question will be, which of the following is or are BFS traversals of this graph is the question. They will give you options 1, 2, 3, 4, Option A is both 1 and 2, B both 2 and 3, C all the above, none of the above. Question will be like this. If the question is like this, you should follow this logic of first visiting all the vertices which are at a distance of 1, then only which are at a distance of 2 but any order is fine, then which are at a distance of 3, any order is fine, then which are at a distance of 4. For example, if I have this option also, this option also, this option also in 1, 2, 3, 4, I will say yes, all those are correct. They are all BFS traversals. If the question is given like this. But the question can be like this also. Which of the following is BFS traversal of the graph? I was given only 4 options. A, B, C, D, that's all. Now 1, 2, 3, 4 and both 2 and 3, both 4, 3 and 4. Nothing like that. They have given just 4 options, that's all. If the question is like this, then you should follow Q rule also. Q rule means I start with A. I will finish the adjacents of A. But in this case, I have only B. So all the options may have only A. Then B's adjacents. Either I should visit C first and D next or D first, C next. If I select C first, D next, which are at a distance of 2 from A, definitely I should visit C's adjacents first, then only D's adjacents next. So C's adjacents are G, E, then only D's adjacents. Already E is covered, that's why H. Finally F. Yes, when I visited C first, in the next level, which are at a distance of 3, I should visit C's adjacents only first, not D's adjacents. So if I visit C, D, but I visited D's adjacents first, H, E, G, F. This is not a BFS traversal for this question. If a question is given like this, you should follow the Q logic also. Whichever you visited first in the level which are at a distance of 2, you should follow the same model here also. First C's adjacents, then only E's adjacents. And when I come to the 4th level, first G's adjacents, then only E's adjacents, then only H adjacents. If the question is like this, you have both types of questions in GATE, that's why I am explaining this. If a question is like this, just follow whether distance 1 is covered, distance 2, then only distance 3. Any order is fine among them. If all the 3 are at a distance of 3, any order is a BFS traversal. But if a question is given with only 4 options, you should follow the Q logic also. Okay? Now we'll see DFS. In fact, breadth-first search will definitely give you a tree. If I follow breadth-first search, it will give me a tree. Just observe. From A, I visited B. From B, I visited C and then D. But when I am at C, I didn't visit D because D is already finished. That's why from here I didn't cover D, so I didn't draw the dotted lines. But from C, I visited G also and E also. When I am crossing D, I will not visit E again because E is already finished. So I am not considering this line. From D, I will cover H. Now when I go to the next level, from E I will cover H. Which means though this is the original graph, in the tree, BF tree, this is the BF tree. Now this tree, once you perform a BFS traversal, you will get a BF tree, breadth first tree. And this tree is a data structure that gives you shortest distance from source to every other vertex in an undirected graph. See, there are no edge weights, sorry, unweighted graph, no weights, right? All are unit weights. That's why B of tree itself will give you the shortest distance from source to every other vertex. You see, from A, the distance to B is 1. From A, the distance to C is 2. From A, the distance to D is 2. From A, the distance to H is 3. For E, 3. For G, 3. For F, 4. So definitely B of tree is giving you the shortest route, okay? Shortest route from source to every other vertex for an unweighted graph. If there are no weights, if you want the shortest distance from source to every other vertex, B of traversal itself is enough. But if it is a weighted graph, all are positive edge weights, still you need a shortest distance from source to every other vertex, we will go for Dijkstra's algorithm, which is a greedy problem. Okay? Because there are no weights, B of tree itself is enough to give you shortest distance from source to every other vertex. Let's talk about DFS. What is DFS logic? When you start at a source vertex, you should go to the maximum depth possible. Maximum depth possible. If I start at A, okay, first I will visit them. Then obviously there can be many adjacents. I should pick up one adjacent, any one. For example, for this case there is only one. So I picked up B, I processed B also. And when I am at B, I have many possibilities. So this is the graph, right? Yeah, this is the original graph. So when I am at B, I can go to C or D, but I selected to go to C. So from B I will process C. Immediately I should not immediately go to the adjacents of B. For example, there may be one more adjacent for B. I should not visit that. Because I have already traveled to C, from C, I should be able to go to further depth, further adjacents of C, if it is not visited. I can come towards E also and G also, anything is fine. Now I decided to move to E. So from C, I move to E. I took this path. Once I come here, I cannot go back and then cover this. No. When I am at E, there is a possibility of moving further depth, so I will go to the depth possible. So I will cover F. Now from F, if I have a possibility of moving to further depth, I should go and then only come back. When there is no possibility of moving forward, that's when I should move to back. Without covering the forward, when there is a possibility if you come back, it is not a DFS. Okay, so I cannot move anywhere from F. So I should backtrack to E because I came from E. So I should backtrack to E, and then from here I will try to move to further depth possible. What is the depth possible? I cannot go back because I have a possibility of moving to this depth. So I will cover D, and from D I will have to move to further depth possible if there is a possibility. Yes, there is a possibility. So I will cover H also. From H, if there is a possibility of moving further depth, I should go. But in this case, there is no possibility, so I will backtrack. From here, if there is a possibility of moving further depth, I should go. But there is no such possibility, so I will backtrack. So backtrack. From here also I cannot move, backtrack. From here I can further move. So I will cover this, backtrack, backtrack, and backtrack. This is DFS. Is this the only DFS? No. I will start with A. Definitely I will go to B because that is the only way. From B, I can go to D. I can take this path. From D, I can go to E also, H also, or C also. For example, I have decided to move to C. Then I will cover G. I cannot move forward, so backtrack. From C, I can move forward. I can cover the depth possible. E. Then F. Backtrack, backtrack, backtrack. Finally H. This is one more depth DFS. So there can be many DFS traversals possible again for the graph. So the rule is like this. When you move to one of the adjacents, if there is a possibility of moving to further depth, you should go. Without covering the depth, if you backtrack, that is not a DFS. So if they give you ABCD options, you check whether it is moving to the depth possible and then only backtracking, or without covering it, it is coming back and covering some other vertex. You just observe those ABCDs and then pick up the right answer. Okay, this is DFS traversal. So in graph traversals we have BFS and DFS. What is the data structure that we use for BFS algorithm? We use a Q data structure. For DFS we use stat data structure. If we really write the algorithm, by using Q we do this, by using stat we do that. Okay. And what is the time complexity of BFS traversal? If the graph representation is adjacency list, it is theta of V plus E. For this also theta of V plus E. But if the graph representation is adjacency matrix, then it is V square, and this is also V square. What are the applications? If you are trying to find whether there is a path or cycle, whether the graph is normally connected or not, you can use any of those two algorithms. But if you are looking for shortest distance from source to other vertices, that can be done by only BFS but not by DFS. BF tree itself will give you shortest distance from source to every other vertex for an unweighted graph. Whether a graph is strongly connected or not. Whether a graph is strongly connected or not is given by DFS but not by BFS. Whether the graph has a topological ordering or not is also given by DFS but not by BFS. What is strongly connected or not? What is topological sorting? These two we will discuss now. Both of them can be done by DFS traversals only but not by BFS. You know what is a chromatic number, right? Should I discuss it? What is a chromatic number? This is related to graph coloring. A, B, C, D, E, for example. I want to color the vertices of the graph, not only vertices. But I want to give different colors to the adjacent vertices. What is the meaning? Two adjacent vertices should not have the same color. If I give red here, I should not give red to B because both are adjacent. There is a edge connecting those two. So I should not give red here. I can give green. So I can give color 2 if I give color 1 here. Can I give color 1 here also? Yes, no problem because these two are not adjacent. But if I give 1 here and 2 here, can I give 1 here? No, because it is adjacent to this. Can I give 2 here? No, it is adjacent to this. So definitely I should give a color 3, third color. Here, do I have to go for fourth color? No, I can give 1 because it is not adjacent with C, it is not adjacent with A. So I can give 1 also, 2 also, no problem. So I can reuse the color. So how many minimum colors are needed to color the vertices? Minimum 3 colors are needed to color the vertices so that no two adjacent vertices have the same color. So the chromatic number of this graph is 3. Minimum number of colors needed to color the vertices of the graph is 3. So that is chromatic number. So let us discuss strongly connected and topological also. When do we call a graph as strongly connected? This is true. See, the two applications that we are talking about are on directed graphs. There should be directions on the edges. Both are related to directed graphs. Okay. First, whether a graph is strongly connected or not. I'll take this graph. Okay, this one. I will start at a source vertex, for example, A. From A, if I perform a DFS, and if I am able to reach all the vertices, then it is connected. That's all, not strongly connected. First, let us check whether graph is connected or not. Starting at A, by using this direction, I can move to B. From B, I can move to C. From C, I can move to D. I have covered all the vertices. So there is a path to move from A to every other vertex. So the graph is connected. That's all. The graph is connected. I cannot say it is strongly connected. When can I say it is strongly connected? First, if it is connected, then I will check. If the graph is not connected, what is there to check whether it is strongly connected or not? No need. The graph is not connected. I don't have to check for strongly connected. I can straight away say not strongly connected. Okay, if the graph is just normally connected, then I will form a reversed graph or a transpose of the graph. What is that? Same vertices, edges, but reverse direction. All the edges are there. Whatever I have here, I have there also. But reversed edges. Okay, I reverse the graph. And I will do the same DFS again starting from the same source. Same at A. And now you perform a DFS. From A, I can move to D. From D, I can move to C. C to B. Did I go to all the vertices from A or not? In this reversed graph also. Yes, I can. Okay. Then, yes, we can say the original graph is strongly connected. So in the original graph also, I should be able to visit all the vertices. In the reversed graph also, with the same source I should do a DFS, and if I can reach all the vertices, yes, the original graph is strongly connected. Now this graph is strongly connected. What I have done is, I have performed DFS twice, that's all. Whether I do it once or twice, the time complexity is same, right? What is the point of saying 2 times that? In theta notation, that 2 has no importance. So whatever is the time complexity of DFS, same is the time complexity for checking whether the graph is strongly connected or not. Okay? Now I'll take one more example. Okay. In this graph, from A, I can visit B from B, C to D. Yes, the graph seems to be connected. Let me check the reversed graph. All the vertices as it is, edges are reversed. This one like this one top, this one in this direction. Okay, all are reversed. Now you should do a DFS starting with the same source. Here I started with A, here also I should start with A. From A, can I go anywhere else? Can I go to B? Can I go to C? Can I go to D? Not possible. Direction is not allowing me to go from A, which means I cannot visit all other vertices from A. So, though the original graph is connected, the reverse graph is not connected. So, the original graph is not strongly connected. This graph is not strongly connected. Okay. The last one is topological sorting. It is also for directed graphs only. In recent years, there are many questions on topological sorting. Topological sorting or ordering? This is applicable only for DAGs, which means directed, so it should be a directed graph, acyclic, which means there should not be a cycle in that graph. Then only topological sorting is possible for directed acyclic graphs. If there is a cycle, topological sorting does not exist. You can straight away say, if there is a cycle, go to the option that there cannot be a topological sorting. Okay. Let me take the graph, any directed graph. For example, this is the graph. I want the topological sorting. What is topological sorting? Topological sorting is nothing but arranging these vertices, all the vertices, on a straight line. I want to write all the vertices like this. Arranging all the vertices on a straight line. So that if I represent all these edges here along with the directions, all those directions should be from left to right only. Either it should go from here to here, here to here, here to here. That's all. None of the edges should come back. It should not be like this. All of them should move from left to right, like this, like this, like this, like this. I should be able to represent all the arcs, all the edges on this. But all those directions should be from left to right only. None of the edge should be from right to left. If there is a right to left, this is not the right ordering. This is not a topological ordering. If any one arc is like this, it It is not a topological ordering. Your ordering is wrong. You should have written this here and this one here. Okay, so arranging the vertices on a straight line so that if I represent all the edges, all those directions should be from left to right only. None of the edges from right to left. And this is possible only if there are no cycles. If there is a cycle, definitely one will be like this, the other one will definitely come back. Because there is a cycle in the graph itself. So topological ordering is not possible for the graphs having cycles. Okay, so it's possible only for acyclic graphs. Let me see here. Do I have any cycles? Is this a cycle? If I go like this, I cannot come like this. So this is not a cycle. Is this a cycle? Come like this, like this, like this, but I cannot go back. So this is not a cycle. Is this a cycle? If I go like this, I cannot come back. If I go like this, I cannot go back. So there is no cycle at all. So definitely ordering is possible. Topological sorting is possible for this graph. Okay. How do I find one such ordering? There can be many such orderings. But how do I find one such ordering? Is start at the source. What is the source? The vertex where there are no incoming arcs, no incoming edges is called the source. This one. Start from there. Perform a DFS traversal. Go to depth. From B, go to depth. From D, go to depth. From F. Can I move anywhere else? No. Okay, so I will backtrack, which means I finished vertex F. Finished. I will not visit F once again. Okay, in this process. So F is finished. So once you find the finished vertex, you insert that vertex in this linked list. Arranging these is nothing but a linked list. Insert that as a starting of the linked list. Whenever you finish a vertex, you insert that as a starting of a linked list. So this F is part of linked list. I am inserting first because this is a null string now, null linked list. I will insert F first. Okay, finished. Backtrack and go to the other adjacents. I don't have other adjacents. So D is also finished. Bring that and insert at the starting of the linked list. If this is my linked list, insertion at the starting means B will be here. So backtrack. And now this is not finished because I can move further. I can move further. Yes. From E, I should not go to F because F is already done. Why will I go there? E is finished because I cannot move to D also because D is also finished already. From E, I cannot move anywhere else. So E is also finished. So insert that as a starting of the linked list. Backtrack. I cannot move anywhere else from C because there are no more adjacents to C. So C is also finished. Insert at the starting of the list. Now backtrack to B. I cannot move anywhere else from B. So B is also finished. Finally backtrack. A is also finished because I cannot move from A to anywhere else. No other adjacents. So this is the ordering. Is this a fine ordering? We don't know. Let us see. I am writing all of them once again here. First one is A, B, C, E, D, F. Okay. Let me represent all these arcs here. A to B. This is from left to right only. Safe till now. B to D. Left to right only. No problem. B to C. Left to right only. No problem. C to E. Left to right. E to D. Left to right. D to F. Left to right. E to F. Left to right. I represent all these edges here. All of them are moving from left to right only. None of the edges from right to left. So this is a topological sorting. A, B, C, E, D, F is a topological sorting for this graph. Is this the only topological sorting? Can there be one more? There is a possibility of having one more. Okay, but by using the algorithm that we learned now, by using DFS, whichever is finished, insert that as a starting of the linked list is the algorithm. Okay, so using that we can find one. There can be many such because I can from B. Why should I go to D? I should have come to C, then E, then D. That is one more possibility, one more DFS traversal. That may give one more topological sort. There can be more than one topological sorts. Is that okay? If the question is like this, they will give a graph and they will give you which of the following is or are topological sortings. You don't have to try all the algorithms and all types of DFS possible. No. You take all those four sequences that they are given in the options. You try to represent all these arcs. If all of them are going from left to right, that is one topological sort. Try B, C, D also. Three will definitely fail. One of them will be successful. Okay, all the arcs will be from left. You can just find like that. Okay, so that is about topological sort. So we finished the graphs. Now we will solve the gate questions. I have pasted one link in the chat box. Hope everybody can access it. It's a Google Drive link. Can all of you access that link? There is a file called 11 underscore graph greedy and dynamic. The last file of that. File number 11, graphs greedy and dynamic. Hope everybody can access the file. Please try to solve the questions.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, over, ma'am.
ఇంకా లేదు మేడం, క్వశ్చన్స్ డిస్కస్ చేస్తున్నాము.
Okay.
First three questions are simple, right? Consider the following graph. Among the following sequences, which are depth first traversals? DFS traversals. Let's check. What is the first one? A, B, E, G, H, F. So the graph is like this: A, B, H, F, G. That's all right. Yeah. Let me see whether this is a DFS or not. A, B, E. First A to B, B to E. Okay. I'm following the depth. From E I am going to G. Yes, possible. G to H. Possible. H to F. Yes, I have covered the depth possible and then only I am backtracking. So it is a depth first only. First option is okay. How about second one? A, B, F, E, H, G. Let's check. A to B, B to F. Okay, I am going in this direction. B to F, F to E. See from F, how can I come back to? First of all, there is no direct edge, so I cannot come to E from F. Not possible. But if I backtrack to B and then connect to E without covering the depth possible, how can I come to E? So this is also not okay. Correct? So this is not a TFS traversal. Then third one, A, B, F, H, G, E. From A I go to B, that is fine. B to F is also fine. B to F. F to H is okay. H to G is okay. G to E is okay. So I am going to the depth possible. So third one is also a possible sequence. Fourth one, A, F, G, H, B, E. A to F, fine. F to G, F to G is a depth. And then from G to H is okay. H to B, B to E is also a possible depth. So 1, 3, 4 are DFS traversals, but second one is not a DFS traversal. So what is the answer for the first question? Option D, 1, 3 and 4 are possible DFS sequences. Second question. Consider the following sequence of nodes for the undirected graph given below. A depth first search is started at node A. The nodes are listed in the order they are first visited. Which all of the above is a possible output? Again the same question. Which of the following are depth first traversals is the question. Let me draw the graph first. A, B, D, E, C, G, F. This is the graph. First sequence A, B, E, F, D, G, C. Let me check this. A to B is fine. B to E is okay. E to F is okay. F to D. Without visiting G and C, how can I come to D from F? Not a possible DFS. Second, A, B, E, F, C, G, D. A to B, B to E is okay. E to F is also okay. From F, I can visit C, yes. Once I finished C, I can go to F and then visit G. From G, I can visit D. Yes, this is a possible DFS. Third one, A, D, G, E, B, C, F. From A, I visit D, yes. D to G, yes. G to E, yes. From E, I will visit B, yes. Okay. From B, I will visit C. From C, I will visit F. Yes. That is a possible DFS. We are covering the depth possible. Last one is A, D, B, C, G, E, F. A to D, D to B. A to D, D to B. Okay. Then B to C is okay. B to C is okay. Then C to G. C to G. Can I come from C directly to G without visiting F or E? Not possible, right? Without covering the depth F, how can I come back to either B or E to visit G? So this is also not a possible DFS. So what are the two DFS traversals possible for this graph? Only 2 and 3. Two and 3. Right question? The number of articulation points of the following graph. The number of articulation points of the following graph. What is an articulation point? Or a cut vertex. The vertex whose removal disconnects the graph is called a cut vertex. What is the answer? Third question. This is the graph. Let us check. If I remove one and these two edges also, the remaining graph is still connected. So this is not a cut vertex. But if I remove two, these three edges are removed, which means there is no connection to 4 with the other graph, with the remaining graph. So it is a disconnected. So 2 is a cut vertex. How about 3? If I remove 3, these 3 edges are also removed. So this is a part, this is a separate part, no connection. Graph becomes disconnected if I remove 3. So 3 is also a cut vertex or an articulation point. But if I remove 4, 4 and its edge, still the remaining graph is connected. Okay, so 4 is not a cut vertex. How about 5? If I remove 5, these 3 edges are removed. 5, 6 and 7, right? The graph becomes disconnected. So 5 is also a articulation point. How about 6? If I remove 6, still the graph is connected. If I remove 7, still the graph is connected. So they are not cut vertices. There are only 3 vertices whose removal disconnects the graph. So the number of articulation points are 3. Answer is D. Fourth question. Fourth question, consider an undirected unweighted graph. Undirected, no directions. Unweighted, weights are also not there. Let a breadth first traversal, BFS, is done starting from a node R, which means source vertex is R. Let DRU and DRV, DRU, DRV, R is a source vertex, okay? Be the length of the shortest paths from R to U and R to V. Shortest distance from R to U is represented like this. Shortest distance from R to V is represented like this. In G, if V is visited before V, if U is visited before V during BFS traversal, which one of the following statement is correct? U is visited first before V. What is the meaning? What is the relation between these two? I have performed a BFS. It is an unweighted graph. These two are shortest distances from source to U, shortest distance from source to V is represented like this. We have done a BFS traversal. In the BF, when I am doing that BFS traversal, I visited U first, then only V. Then what is the relation between these two is the question. I told you already, when you are performing a BFS, a BF tree is possible. BF tree. This tree will give you shortest distance from source to every other vertex. Shortest distance from source to every other vertex is given by BF tree. So this is the distance from R to U, this is the distance from R to V. But when I am performing a BF tree, they have given U is visited before V. What is the meaning? When I started at source R, I have visited U first, then only V. What is the meaning? When I am performing a BFS, I visited U first, then V, which means from source, U is at a shorter distance than V. That's why I visited U first. Okay, without completing which are at a distance of K, I will not move to which are at a distance of K plus 1. So, I have visited U first, means definitely the distance from R to V, U is lesser than R to V. This is one possibility. This is one possibility. And maybe from the source R, both are at the same distance. Both are at the same distance. But I have a choice of visiting U first, then V can be there, right? Why should I visit V first, then only U? No such rules. Though they are at the same distance, I have a choice of visiting U first, then V. So either they are at equal distance from R, this is a distance from R to U, distance from R to V. Either they are at the same distance, I prefer to visit U first, or U is at a shorter distance from R, that's why I visited U first. That is the only possibility. Either this is less than or equal. This cannot be less than. If this is less than, I should have visited V first. Then only, for sure. Correct? Because in BFS, without visiting which are at a shorter distance, I cannot move to further distance. Further distance vertices. Correct? So the answer is DRU is less than or equal to DRV. You should not say strictly less than, because both of them can be at same distance, but I selected U to visit first. So answer is C. We will solve one more question and then stop. Okay. How many undirected graphs? Undirected graphs. Not necessarily connected. The graph need not be connected. Okay. Can be constructed out of given n vertices, V1, V2, V3 and so on, Vn. So out of n vertices, how many graphs you can construct, but the graph need not be connected. It should have all the n vertices, but it need not be connected. This is the question. Let's not talk about n vertices. Let's talk about approximately 4 vertices, for example. 4 vertices. So definitely there should be 4 vertices in a graph. Yes, 4 vertices are there, but no edges. Yes, this is a graph, no doubt. There can be one such graph. Second graph. There should be 4 vertices. Yes, they are. I will have a graph only with one edge. That edge can be this one, or this one, or this one, or this one, or this one. Which means 6 graphs are possible. 4 vertices having only one edge. 6 different graphs are possible. Why I am saying 6? Because with 4 vertices, this is a complete graph. 6 vertices or 6 edges are possible. Among all those 6 edges, I will pick up only one edge. In how many ways I can do that? Either I can pick up this one, or 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 this one. So among 6, I can pick up any one edge. That can be done in 6 C1 ways. So 6 different graphs are possible. 6 different graphs are possible. This one, out of 6, I didn't pick up any edge, which means 0 edges I picked. In how many ways I can do that? Out of 6, I want to pick up only 0 edges. 6 is 0 ways, which is 1. That is this graph. Now I want to form the graphs with 4 vertices having 2 edges. Any 2 edges. Out of 6, I can pick up any 2 edges. How many graphs are possible like that? 6 C2 graphs are possible. What is the value of 6 C2? 15. Then, having 4 vertices, I want to form graphs with 3 edges. Any 3 edges. These 3, any 3. Out of these 6 edges, I want to pick up only 3 edges. Any 3 edges. That can be done in 6C3 ways. All are different graphs. 6C3 value is 20. Now having 4 vertices, I want to form graph with 4 edges. Any 4 edges out of these 6. So pick up any 4 out of 6. 6C4 ways is nothing but 6C2. 6C2 is 6C4, which is 15. NCR is equal to NC n minus r. So 6C2 and 4, both are same. So any 4. Now with 5, among 6, I want to pick up any 5. In how many ways I can do that? 6C5, which is nothing but 6C1. Finally, 4 vertices, all 6 edges. Only one possibility, that is complete graph. All 6. Pick up all the 6. 6 is 6 ways, which is 1. This is also one graph, that is also one graph, remaining all, there can be many graphs. So these many different graphs are possible having 4 vertices. They said clearly, need not be connected. Okay, so all these are different possible graphs with 4 vertices. So total how many? 1 plus 6 plus 15 plus 20 plus 15 plus 6 plus 1. 64. 64 different graphs are possible when n is equal to 4. So when I substitute n value as 4, which option is giving me 64? The options given below. Option A, n into n minus 1 by 2. Let me check. 4 into 3 by 2. No, it is giving me 6. I don't want A. I want 64 as the answer. Let me check B. 2 power n, that is 2 power 4, is 16. It is not 64. Let me check option C. N factorial. 4 factorial. What is 4 factorial? 24. No. How about B? 2 power n into n minus 1 by 2. 2 power 4 into 3 by 2. 4 into 3 by 2 is 6. What is 2 power 6? 64. Yes. Option D is
మ్యామ్
given.
నవత మ్యామ్
Yes, ma'am.
దీని తర్వాత ఆపేస్తారా మేడం
ఇదే లాస్ట్ క్వశ్చన్. ఇదే లాస్ట్.
ఓకే ఓకే
So when there are 4 vertices, I can have any number of edges among those 4 vertices. So with 0 vertices, with 0 edges, with 1 edge, with 2 edges, 3 edges, 4 edges, 5 edges, 6 edges. So total 64 graphs are possible when number of vertices are 4. So when I substitute n value as 4, only option D is giving me 64 as the answer. So D is the answer. So you don't have to, by seeing n values, don't get confused. You take a sample n, verify which option is giving you the right answer. You can solve many such questions. Okay, in any concept. Don't just depend on that n. Don't try to find a formula for it. Okay. So we'll solve the remaining questions next week, and I think you can solve some of them, at least some of them. Okay, please try to solve at home. Next week again we will discuss. We'll complete 8 questions and then we'll start greedy method. If you have any